Hi, I'm Chanaye Jackson, and welcome to the Idea to Empire podcast. I cannot wait for you to meet Benita Williams, the self care surgeon. She is so warm, gracious, loving, and such a good person to remind us how we need to incorporate and prioritize true self care, not retail therapy, well, perhaps a little bit of that too, into our lives as business people, as friends, as a family member, as just human beings walking this earth. So let's bring her on. Let's do this. Benita, how are you?
I am great, Chanaye. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome to the Idea to Empire podcast. I'm so glad that you're here.
I am happy to
I
be
can't,
here. Thank you for the
I
invite.
can't wait to get into the crux of the conversation. So, everybody heard your bio. So, tell me a little more about you. Introduce yourself a little more.
Sure, absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much for having me on. It is a pleasure to be here today with your audience. I am Benita Williams, the self care surgeon, but I wasn't always the self care surgeon. There is definitely a story to tell behind that. I spent about 20 some years in the nonprofit sector. And anybody who's in human services, we take our work home with us quite often, right? So in 22 years' time, you can imagine how many hours I spent on the job, whether I was actually on the job physically or even away from the job, but still thinking about the job. And actually, you think about the time spent on the road to get to work. I had about an hour commute each way, and you spend most of your time thinking about your job. And so it just became a lot for me, over the years. And I'm sure that probably your listening audience can identify with some of that. And so I found myself really just engulfed in work and engulfed in all the roles and the things that I did, not necessarily for myself, but for other people. And let's just say it just kind of took a toll on me, caught up with me after a while. So
Sure.
from that point, I discovered that I hadn't really been kind to myself. Um, I went through a series of health challenges, even. And that's what led me to really start my own self discovery of self healing. It was during those health challenges and those really trying times that I realized that I needed to pay more attention to myself and how I care for myself and prioritizing myself. And so, hence, today is why I'm so passionate about helping others to do the same.
How can our business owners, how can the folks listening, how can we really incorporate self care into the businesses that we are building?
Absolutely. Well, I don't know about everyone else, but for me especially, I found myself not really knowing what self care really is. I wasn't familiar with self care. It wasn't a term that we tossed around in the office, and so you don't hear about it. You don't really talk about self care in the corporate setting, and so. For me, I was very novice to it. I didn't really understand what it meant. I was, used to the word as a cliche. You go get your manicures, your pedicures, you hang out with your girlfriends for some retail therapy from time to time, things like that, right? And so that was my that was my introduction and awareness of self care. It wasn't until again I had my health scare, and we're talking probably back in 2014. I had a series of things that happened, including my mother. I was taking care of her. She had a terminal illness and I was taking care of her until she passed away. And also, I'm married, and my husband, my best friend, is also a person with a significant disability, and so I was also his caregiver. And so you imagine going to work every day, and then you do what you do at work, and you come home, and you still have the roles that you wear and the patterns that you live by, things like that. And so the hats that you put on, so to speak. And so I was just basically going from one role to another role without really taking time out for myself. And so because of that, again, I hit a wall one day. I just literally hit the wall, ended up having to go into the emergency room. And it was at that moment that was my breaking point and my wake up call as well. And so it was at that moment that I discovered, you know what, you haven't been too kind to yourself. And you really need to learn how to be kind to yourself. And so I began my own personal journey to self-care, to becoming self-compassionate, for self-awareness, like all the things that really I should be prioritizing, because I want to be around, right? We want to be around for our friends and our families and our loved ones and things like that. And so in order to do that, in order to be our best selves and come from that place of being our best selves, we really need to prioritize ourselves first. And so I told everybody that I, come in contact with, talk to, that self-care is not selfish, it's selfless.
I really identify with what you're talking about. I had my own challenge. It wasn't a health challenge, but it was such a strong burnout that
Hmm.
I had to take off a month
Yep.
to kind of get myself back to center because I was so skewed to left or right, whichever choose your favorite side, but
Right.
it was not the center. And what you're saying too reminds me of that just old adage: you got to fill up your own cup before you can fill up others. So,
Absolutely. You cannot pour from an empty cup.
so what else can we do? I mean, retail therapy is really fun, but it's not self care. I mean,
Right.
it can be a part of it. I love
It's
shoes.
surface level self-care. Yeah.
Like, what else is important for a busy business owner doing all the things?
Absolutely. So, what I discovered is that you really need to take time out for yourself. And the way that you do that is you have to prioritize yourself, meaning you need to set boundaries. I was pretty much spread myself out thin because I was pretty much everybody's everything. I didn't know how to say no. Very loyal to my company. Again, I've been in it for 20 some years. Very loyal to my friends, very loyal to my family. And so this loyalty plays out, but it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost of us not really prioritizing ourselves, and we spread ourselves super, super thin. And then when the energy runs out and we're depleted, I mean, literally depleted of energy and things like that, we don't
Mhm.
really have the things, the foundational things to pour back into us to help us to refuel. And so I just found myself basically like you, just being burnt out over a period of time. And that's what I mean when I said I hit the wall. I literally just hit the wall of burnout, and exhaustion and all the things that come with it, chronic fatigue, even overwhelm, you name it. And it starts out very, very subtle. There were warning signs, definitely, but I had no clue of the warning signs. Chanaye, I really did not know what the warning signs were. I did not pay attention to my body because at the time I was just busy being everything to everybody else. And so I wasn't really taking heed to the clues that were given to me. Things like, being stressed out, short tempered, being easily agitated, those type of things, very quick to react rather than to be proactive, right? I was just reacting to a lot of things. Wasn't really motivated. There was a period of time when I didn't really feel motivated anymore in the things that I was doing. And so all of those are just early warning signs to let you know that you may be on the brink of burnout. You may be on the edge of burnout. Okay. If you're feeling maybe even some discomfort, headaches, and you can't sleep at night, there's uneasiness of sleeping, and you just always feel like you're depleted of energy. Like I said, chronic fatigue. So all of these are just early warning signs that you may want to pay attention to
Yeah,
sooner rather
yeah,
than later. You know,
yeah.
and so when I discovered that, it was a wake up call for me. I
Mhm.
try to teach women now that, you don't have to get to the place of burnout. There are preventive measures to burnout. So if you can prevent burnout, that's the best route to go. But even if you find yourself already in burnout, or have experienced it more than once, there is a way that you can bounce back from it. And so I began navigating this, dark path to change, really, because for me, it was a change, a total change. I'm so used to being in control, right? We as high achievers, alpha females, go getters, all
Overdoers.
those. Exactly, right? So we're used to like being in control and handling things, and just really being about our bag and being able to do the things that we're able to do and very confident in it, right? Until we're not anymore, until we're not in control anymore, until your body starts to shut down and break down, and you're spiraling out of control. And so those are the things that you want to stay clear of. And the best way to do that is, number one, recognize the early warning signs. If your body is screaming out to you because you come home and you have a headache every day, if your body's screaming out to you because maybe even you're finding some health challenges like high blood pressure or some other kind of health complications and stuff, that's just your body's way of letting you know, listen, you need to pay attention more. You need to prioritize yourself more. You
Yeah.
need to go deeper. And so that's kind of how I began the journey to self-care and self-healing.
I love that you talk through symptoms
Yeah.
because you're just in it every day. So you don't actually know that it's progressing. Like if you don't
Yes.
do some situation, some returning, some pivoting, some whatever, you're on that road. And that's so scary. I
Mhm.
also believe that it's not just burnout, it's like completely a version of overwhelm. How do you feel about that thought?
Oh, it is. It definitely is because everything comes at you at once. Again, it's about the feeling of losing control, which is
Mm,
overwhelming in and of
yeah.
itself, right? But when you add to it the complications, like in my case, the health complications, I mean, I literally went to work one day, Chanaye, and honestly, feeling fine, feeling great, had a great, drive in, great commute. It was going to be a great day. It's supposed to be a very, very, very good day. I was getting ready for a business retreat, had all my ducks in a row. Again, feeling a sense of in control. And one of my coworkers came in and she noticed that I didn't look so well. And she said, "Benita, are you feeling okay?" And I was like, "The best ever." Like, I'm good. And she said, "No, there's something wrong." She said, "I think you should take a look at yourself." And so I pulled out a mirror and to my discovery, I realized I didn't know who I was looking at in the mirror. Like my face had totally disfigured on one side, and it looked as if I had had a stroke. Seriously.
Yeah.
And it scared me, and it scared my coworkers and my colleagues, and everybody was on alarm. And that was overwhelming, right? Because it was very unexpected. And so from that period on, it just became a series of, going to the doctors, medical treatment,
Mhm.
testing, being out of work, not able to drive a vehicle. I mean, everything that I knew, life as I'd known it at that very moment stopped.
Mm,
It stopped for me.
mm,
Like all the things that I was used to handling and used to doing, being a caregiver, being the responsible one, the one that, people can depend on. It was like now I had to depend on everybody else. I was no longer in control. And that's a very, very scary thing to navigate. Like you said, navigating the dark path of change. And so at that time, for me, I was reaching and grabbing for anything because I knew that I did not want to be on the mental health spectrum. I did not want to go down this path of, series of tests. And I was on 15 different medications. Like I was a walking zombie. I didn't know what day of the week it was at times. I mean, I'm being very transparent here, but honestly, it's because at that time, I was looking for someone who could help me, to guide me through, to let me know that, this was not the end for me, that this was not the end, and how it ends up for me, that there was a way to bounce back from all of this. But very, very scary time for me. And if there's anyone in your listening audience right now, who may have experienced even something remotely similar, I just want to let them know that, because of this platform, Chanaye, that you have allowed and permitted, that there are people out here who have gone through perhaps some of the things and can spare you, can help you to not have to go through the things that we have had to go through. And we're also here to help you navigate through that process as well. So just want to thank you for giving us space to be able to, you know, bring a light to burnout and exhaustion and chronic fatigue and shine the light on it so that we can, let people know that there is a way to bounce back.
there is a way to bounce back.
Yeah.
I appreciate your words. Like I knew when I met you that we absolutely needed to have you on. I mean, as I said, like I think I've been on burnout twice in my
Yeah.
life, and that is two times too many,
Yeah.
right? So the goal is that we're able to feel in control, feel like we have, autonomy and ability to handle the life's pressures and the business pressures that we're all, we just kind of have to deal with. It's okay, but like, we can't pour from an empty cup. And I know for a fact that my burnouts
Mhm.
were totally me pouring into others and not refilling myself in a way that was caring to my body, to my
Yep.
spirit, to my mental health. The whole point of this podcast is that I wish that I had been able to learn from
Exactly.
people who had been there, done that before me. And, this is a discussion of like, what advice, what tips, what struggles have we been through, right? So that the next folks with us, the next folks behind us don't do this.
Absolutely, absolutely the case. Again, for myself, and I'm sure for you as well, I was seeking for guidance. I was looking for people who had kind of been there and done that and could help me. But that's where the passion came in, to become the self care surgeon, because I realized that this was a gap that needed to be filled, from personal achievement and performance also to professional achievement and performance. We need to bridge the gap, because if we're not spending our time, and most of us really spend our time away from home, on the job more so than even at home. And so wherever you're spending most of your time, you need to be catering to yourself and properly giving yourself permission for self-care, for self-compassion and those type of things. And so I really wanted to be a solution, to help people who may be struggling to find work-life balance. And I know we hear that term again; it's another cliche term, work-life balance, work-life balance. Well, when you think about it, wherever you spend the most of your time, that's where you should be catering to yourself the most.
Mm,
And so, how do you do that? And what are some practical ways to be able to do that? On my self healing journey, that was my quest. It was like, okay, what this tells me is that I can no longer do things the way I've been doing them,
sure.
because the definition of insanity, we know, is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, right? so
Yeah.
so because of that, I realized that I could not continue to work and be successful the way I had been doing it before, because it came at a consequence and a price that was too high for me to pay. Okay,
Yeah.
too high for me to pay. And so I had to find a way to still be successful, okay, but do it in a way that also benefited me. Basically, my mess became my message and my pain became my passion. I developed a passion to help others. And that's what brought me to become the self care surgeon. I wanted to offer services again to women in leadership, CEOs, entrepreneurs, that could really help them to not only be revived, but also thrive in purpose. And so the way that I went about it is I realized there were three key things that I needed to do differently. I
Okay.
needed to refuel physically, I needed to renew mentally, and then I needed to refocus on my purpose. Okay, so refuel, renew, and refocus became the process by which I began my self healing journey and ultimately bounced back.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
interesting you went with 3 R's, like, the first thing I thought of was R&R, right?
Yep.
But, like, you're like R&R and all and R.
And
Eh,
are, right? Exactly. Yes. Because, when you think about refueling, a lot of people think, oh, exercise and physical activity and running and things like that, and eating properly and things like that. And yes, they're correct in all of that. But it's so much more, because what you said in the beginning earlier on is that there is a total alignment that needs to take place. I believe that self care is essential to peak performance, but how do you achieve self care? I believe self care is total alignment, physically, mentally, socially, spiritually, and mentally. Okay, so physically, mentally, socially, spiritually, and emotionally. So all five areas need to be in total harmony in total sync with yourself. And what you find a lot of times is people may be doing one of these things, or they may do a couple of things, but they're not really in total alignment, because all key parts, all 5 parts are key to achieving total well-being. And so that's kind of the foundation of what I teach in my program.
Yeah, it's really interesting because as a word or a phrase that keeps popping up for me as I'm listening to you is you keep
Mhm.
saying self-healing. And I
Yes.
mean self-care too, but self-healing. And I think that's so it's you especially if you get to the burnout phase, to the super overwhelmed phase,
Yes.
it's it's self-healing first. Then to maintain that healing, you give yourself self-care. And you still might do the same activities, is what it seems, but it's a different level so you can maintain the best version of yourself as you've gone
Absolutely.
through that process.
Absolutely. It's awareness. I believe awareness is half the battle. Like I said, I was just simply clueless. I wasn't aware about self-care and how to do self-care properly and those type of things. And there's many different ways that you can achieve self-care, but it's all about the awareness that I don't need to just be healed in my physical body, but I need to think differently. Remember, I said earlier, I had to think differently about how I was approaching success and how I was becoming successful. I needed to think differently about prioritizing myself first. And that no is a complete sentence. I,
Amen.
okay. And it was okay to say no. Like, I needed to reprogram my mind. I needed to shift some things mentally, and to process differently. You think about it, our bodies are made up of systems, right? And this is going to help all of my professionals out there, entrepreneurs out there, CEOs out there, the bosses out there, okay? The body is made up of systems, right? We have the skeletal system, we've got the respiratory system, circulatory system, all these systems, okay? And
Yeah.
so I believe that your overall health is dependent on the health of your systems, okay? Your overall bodily function is dependent on how healthy your systems are. And if you have a system breakdown or system failure, then you're not going to operate at optimal levels. Well, such is the case also in business. Okay. When I
Mm.
sought out to do my business, to actually become a coach and consultant, have a consulting business, what I discovered is that I didn't want to work the same way. I could not afford to work the same way that I had been working before. And so I wanted to work smarter and not harder, right? But how do you work smarter and not harder? Well, working smarter means that you employ systems, because I'm only one person, you're only one person. But
Right.
if you employ a system can produce 10x, 20x, 100x times the productivity than a person could do, than you could do individually. And so, what I focused on was working on my business, employing systems, having a way to work myself literally out of the day to day of my business. And I know that's a mindset shift, because a lot of people go into business to think, well, I can work harder for myself than I will for someone else and that kind of thing. And yes, but working harder on your business, not in your business.
Right.
Because if you just continue to work the same way you've been doing, we're really all you're really doing is like you're doing a job. It's like you own a job rather than a business. And
Yeah.
so that was a mindset shift for me. And so now I really help people to understand putting systems together. The health of your business is going to depend on the health of your systems. The strength of your business will depend on the health of your systems that you employ. There's a famous quote by Vernon Howard, who says that our freedom can be measured by the number of things we're able to walk away from.
Ooh.
Yeah. Let me say
Yeah.
that again. Vernon Howard, you guys can look him up. He's got a lot of powerful quotes, but he said, our freedom can be measured by the number of things that we're willing to walk away from. Okay. That we're willing to walk away from. And so I set out to become a freedom entrepreneur. And I'm going to give a shout out, because I call this basically my business Bible, but it's called Freedom Entrepreneur, by, I don't know if you can see, by Peter Carey. Okay. This is my business Bible, one of my business Bibles, because he is so on point when it comes to working yourself out of the day-to-day activities of your business. And he employs a lot of tools and techniques and things that we can do to employ systems. And that is how you work smarter and not harder on your business.
So first, I'll make sure to put all those links in the show notes and the description so people can learn about that book, Freedom
Yeah.
Entrepreneur. That's fabulous. Like, I love that you're like, this is my business Bible. This is the way
Yes,
that I keep
absolutely.
myself in check.
Yes.
As you've been talking, I've had a curiosity. What are some opportunities for self-care? How could we do them?
So again, I think the first thing is awareness. Awareness is half the battle, right?
Mm.
If you started to notice the symptoms, pay attention. Really become aware of your body. I am so in tune with my body now until I know when I need to take breaks. I know when I need to walk away or back away completely. I incorporate what's called intentional rest activities. So
Mm.
intentional resting is something that I employ every single day in my business. When you think about it, a lot of times people are so routine, Chanaye. They're so routine, and I was one of them. I was the routine queen. Okay. I'm a planner by nature. I'm
Sure.
very strategic in by nature. I'm very strategic in planning and things like that. And so I had a process for everything, a plan for everything. I woke up the same. I did the same things every
Mm.
day. I drove the same route to work. Like everything was all laid out and planned out. Why? Because again, I was so in control, right? I was all about the control of it all. And so, I became very routine in that. But when I was on my self-healing journey, I discovered that routines can really be a bad thing and not a good thing. And what I mean by that is routines are typically tasks that are not meant to be broken, right? They're not meant to be disrupted. Okay, it's the
Mm.
same thing every single day. Okay. However, what I discovered works better is if you have a regimen rather than a routine. And the
Yeah.
reason being is because regiments are intentional times of interruption. That's what a regimen is, intentional times of interruption. So you can design and develop a regimen around the stressors that are going on in life because you don't have the same stressors every single day. You
For
know, you
sure.
don't have the same stressors from year to year and things like that. As your stressors change in your life, as different events and stuff happen in your life, so should your regiments change. It should accommodate whatever is going on in your life at the time, right? Your children don't stay two forever. so you
Praise,
need to
praise God.
adapt, right? Right? They're not terrible twos forever. So you need to adapt and change according to the stresses in life, how your stressors change in your life. And the way to do that is not to be routine, because if you have a routine and then all of a sudden something goes against that routine, it's going to tick you off, right? But if you
Mm.
have a regimen, you're allowing yourself permission to be flexible with your time, to be intentional about your rest and your breaks and things like that. And so I've developed regimens and I help people to develop lifestyle regimens, so
Yeah.
that it accommodates your lifestyle and all the many changes that go on in a person's life.
Yeah, I really like that because
Yeah.
the biggest struggle I'll speak from the I
Yeah.
that I've
Yeah.
been having is that they talk a lot about morning routines, evening
Yeah.
routines, and I always feel therefore that when I don't follow the morning routine, when I don't follow the evening routine, that I've failed, which is
Mm,
also frustrating, overwhelming.
there we
Like
go.
so, but I love this idea of a regimen, and not only that, but we talk a lot about give yourself grace,
Gives
right?
yourself permission.
And
Yes.
give yourself permission to change it when necessary, which
Yes.
is part of controlling the control, right? Like
Right.
I love that. I have a morning regimen.
There you go. Yes,
Claiming it
that's
now. I
awesome.
love that. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you for just sharing that. Self-care surgeon.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Thank
Um,
you.
how can people work with you? How can we learn more about what you do?
Sure, sure. Let me leave just a couple of tips real quick. For again, for all of my business ladies out there, you want to find a way to do delegate and delete often. Okay. It's another thing that I picked up in Peter Carey's book. Do delegate and delete often. Do the things that you can do. Delegate what you can delegate, and then delete things that you completely no longer serves you, right? It just no longer serves you anyway. So just practice the do, delegate, and delete method. And that will help you as well, both in work and in life. Okay, so just wanted to mention that. What I
Thank you.
discovered is that a lot of people who have stressors in life, we all have stressors in life. And let me make sure that I'm not saying bad things. I'm not saying that bad stress, because there's also good stress, right? When you have a change in family, for example, when you're welcoming a new baby, right? That's a good stress. It's not a bad stress. So there are good stresses in life, but still, nonetheless, it's stress, right? And so what you want to do is you want to adapt to the changes that are occurring in life, okay? And give yourself permission to be flexible with those changes. And whatever no longer serves you, when I was talking about the do, delegate, and delete, if it no longer serves you, you want to be able to delete it, because what ends up happening is it becomes a time waster.
Mhm,
Becomes a
mhm,
time waster. Okay.
mhm.
So I believe that certain stressors, certain things that we're no longer supposed to serve us, no longer serving us, can also be a waste of our time.
Ooh,
Okay. Yeah, it
okay.
can also be a waste of our time.
Yeah.
How you divvy up your time is everything, because we all are on a level playing field when it comes to that, right? We all have 24 hours in a day. We're all on the same playing field. It's just what you choose to do with it. So, what I did is I created a quiz, a 1 minute quiz, 60-second quiz that says to identify your time wasters. The very things that are stressing you out could also be the very things that are wasting your time. So you want to identify your time wasters, and there's a link to the quiz, and that's my offer. It's a free quiz. You want to identify your time wasters to see what are the things that really are a waste of your time. Okay, more so than something that's beneficial to you. And if you can identify your time wasters, then you can get rid of the stress.
Let's get I
Yeah,
mean, that's like a perfect period, right?
yeah,
Like, get rid of the stress.
yeah.
Let's be the
Stress
best.
less. Yeah.
Stress less. I think
Yes,
that's the title of this episode. Stress with the self-care version. Hey, how can
absolutely.
people find you? Where do you exist? Where do you hang out?
Yeah, so my website offers a lot of information. A way to connect to me has all my social handles on it and everything, and also a lot of good information, articles, and things like that. So just go to benitawilliams.com, benitawilliams.com, and that's a great way to find me there.
Yeah, I love that. And
Yeah.
that's benitawilliams.com with a B, not
B,
a V.
not a B. Yeah. Yes.
Benita, it has been an absolute pleasure to get to know you before this and to learn more about you here. I
Thank you.
I really appreciate you coming and just sharing all the things, sharing your wisdom, sharing your grace, sharing the
Thank
love of the work that you do. I so enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you so much, Chanaye, again, for just giving us a platform to be able to be transparent, to be able to be vulnerable, to be able to talk about the hard things, especially in our community, especially.
Mhm.
We don't do that enough. We never really saw or heard grandma tell her stories, or mom tell how stressed she was. We never saw them cry or, get frustrated and things like that and come and tell us about the things, right? They typically kept a lot to themselves in that way. And so I am just honored to be able to hopefully shed some light, to start the conversations, to encourage someone who's listening that it's okay to talk about it, that it's okay, that it doesn't mean that you're inferior to someone or that you're weak or anything like that, but it means that you are a human. It means that you have to take care of yourself, because you do have a big responsibility to take care of your world, and the people that are in it. You do have a big responsibility, but it's okay, because if we can come together as a community, it's better together. And so I thank you and appreciate you again for allowing us space to be able to talk about these topics, these matters. Thank you.
So, everyone, this is Benita Williams. I hope you really enjoyed our conversation. If you need to learn more about the podcast on swantowncreative.com, you can learn more about me. You can get all the things. Benita, me, bye, y'all. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.